For thousands of years, the Assyrians were one of the most powerful civilizations on Earth. They built great cities. They created vast armies. They influenced the history of the Middle East for centuries. But today, the descendants of this ancient civilization have no independent country of their own. So what happened? How did a people who once ruled an empire become one of the world's most dispersed minorities? The story of the Assyrians is not only the story of an ancient empire, it is also the story of survival. A story of conquest, genocide, colonial decisions, great power politics, and a question that continues to shape the modern world. Who has the right to decide the future of a people? Throughout history, powerful nations have drawn borders, created states, and made strategic decisions that affected millions of lives. Sometimes these decisions brought stability. Sometimes they created tensions that lasted for generations. The Assyrian story is one example of this much larger pattern, long before the British Empire existed, long before modern Iraq appeared on a map. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was home to one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world, Assyria. Centered on the city of Assur and later on the great capitals of Nimrud and Nineveh, the Assyrians built an empire that stretched across much of the ancient Near East. At its height, Assyria controlled territory from Egypt to the mountains of the Caucasus. Their kings commanded professional armies. Their engineers built impressive cities and defensive structures. Their administrators created systems of government that allowed them to control one of the largest empires of their age. They were not simply warriors, they were builders, scholars, and organizers. The Neo-Assyrian Empire reached its peak under rulers such as Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, Sennacherib, and Ashurbanipal. Their armies were among the most advanced in the ancient world. They used disciplined formations, siege technology, organized logistics, and iron weapons to defeat their enemies. The city of Nineveh became one of the greatest cities of antiquity. Within its walls stood magnificent palaces adorned with detailed stone reliefs depicting royal ceremonies, hunting scenes, and military campaigns. King Ashurbanipal created one of the ancient world's most important libraries, preserving thousands of clay tablets containing literature, history, science, and religious texts. At its height, Assyria was the superpower of its time, but no empire lasts forever. In 612 BC, after years of internal weakness and conflict, Nineveh fell. A coalition of Babylonians and Medes captured the Assyrian capital, bringing the empire to an end. But the fall of the empire did not mean the disappearance of the Assyrian people. They survived, they adapted, and they continued to preserve their identity through centuries of foreign rule. Under the Persians, Greeks, and Parthians, Assyrian communities remained in their ancestral homeland. Over time, many Assyrians embraced Christianity. Their language developed into Syriac, one of the most important literary languages of early Christianity. But survival did not mean security. For centuries, Assyrian communities lived under the rule of larger empires, often as minorities in their own historical homeland. By the beginning of the 20th century, the Assyrians would face one of the greatest challenges in their long history. The collapse of old empires would transform the Middle East forever, and the decisions made after that collapse would shape the fate of the Assyrian people for generations. When the First World War ended, the Ottoman Empire collapsed. But peace did not mean that the people of the region would decide their own future. Instead, the victorious Allied powers gathered to divide the former Ottoman territories. The League of Nations introduced the Mandate system. Britain received the mandate for Iraq. The new country combined the former Ottoman provinces of Mosul, Baghdad, and Basra. These regions had different histories, different ethnic groups, and different religious traditions. The Assyrians now found themselves a minority inside a newly created state. Many Assyrians hoped that promises made during and after the war would provide protection. Instead, Britain focused on creating a stable state that could protect its strategic interests. These interests included air routes, communications, and growing oil production. To help maintain security, Britain organized a military force known as the Iraq Levies. Over time, Assyrians became the largest group serving in the levies. For many Assyrians, military service offered protection, employment, and stability. But this relationship came at a terrible cost. The Assyrians' loyalty to the British made them targets in the eyes of some Iraqi nationalists. Political tensions continued to grow. In August 1933, the Iraqi army moved into Assyrian villages. The most well-known events took place at Simele. Hundreds of Assyrian civilians were killed. Many villages were destroyed. Historical estimates vary, but historians generally agree that hundreds of civilians lost their lives. The massacre sent shockwaves through the Assyrian community. Many feared for their future. The events also attracted international attention. Reports reached the League of Nations. Questions were raised about minority protection. But no independent Assyrian homeland was created. Instead, proposals focused on resettlement and limited autonomy. Different locations were discussed. None of these proposals resulted in an independent Assyrian state. For many Assyrians, the events of 1933 became a defining national memory. Every year, the victims are remembered. The story, however, was far from over. The tensions came to a head again in 1941. A pro-Axis government led by Rashid Ali attempted to remove British influence from Iraq. One of the first targets was RAF Habaniya. The base came under siege. The Iraq Levies played a crucial role in its defense. Many Assyrians remembered the events of 1933. Some accounts record that they vowed, "Never again." The siege was eventually broken. British forces regained control. The Assyrian levies gained a reputation for discipline and reliability. The force continued to expand. Eventually, around 40,000 Assyrians served in the levies. They served not only in Iraq, but also in Cyprus, Palestine, Greece, Albania, and Italy. One British officer who commanded the levies was Brigadier Charles Edward Hudson. He worked to improve the conditions of the soldiers. He even established a weaving business to provide affordable cloth. In his memoirs, Hudson reflected on the challenges facing the region. He recognized that the Assyrians and Kurds continued to face recurring conflict. Despite their service, their long-term political future remained uncertain. The war had ended, but the central question remained unanswered. Despite centuries of Assyrian history in the region, despite their service to the British Empire, and despite their suffering, the British never seriously considered granting the Assyrians independence. The question of an Assyrian homeland became part of a much larger debate about the future of the Middle East. After World War I, many groups across the former Ottoman Empire sought political recognition. But the victorious powers faced a difficult choice. Should new states be created around individual communities, or should existing territories be kept together? The answer shaped the borders of the modern Middle East. For the Assyrians, several proposals were discussed. One idea was an autonomous Assyrian region in northern Iraq. The Mosul region became especially important. The region had strategic importance because of its location and resources. Oil became one of the most important factors in regional politics. Britain wanted a stable Iraq that protected its strategic interests. Creating a separate Assyrian state would have changed the political structure Britain had helped create. The Iraqi government also opposed the idea. Many leaders feared that dividing the country could weaken the new state. The League of Nations examined the Assyrian situation. But international support did not lead to an independent homeland. Instead, solutions focused on resettlement and limited protections. Some proposals even considered moving Assyrians outside their ancestral homeland. For many Assyrians, these proposals represented survival, but not self-determination. The debate reflected a larger question that continues today. When does protecting territorial unity conflict with the rights of smaller peoples? This question has affected many groups throughout history. The Assyrian case became part of this wider pattern. A people with thousands of years of history found themselves without a state of their own. Their flag became a symbol of identity rather than a national flag over an independent country. But the story of the Assyrians was not over. Today, the Assyrians remain one of the world's oldest surviving peoples. Their history stretches back thousands of years. Yet today they have no independent state. Their homeland is now divided among several modern states. Many now live in the United States, Europe, Australia, Canada, while others continue living in parts of their ancestral homeland. Their language is still spoken. Their Christian faith continues. Their culture survives. But the dream of political self-determination remains unresolved. But the Assyrians are not alone in their struggle. As one observer noted, international law says that no outside power has the inherent right to decide the fate of another people. The principle of self-determination is recognized in international law. Yet history shows that applying these principles has often been inconsistent. Supporters of this viewpoint point to cases such as the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh and Kurdish communities in Turkey and Syria. Others argue that protecting existing international borders is essential for regional stability. This tension between self-determination and territorial integrity continues to shape international politics. The Assyrian experience illustrates this wider debate. They once ruled one of history's greatest empires. Today, they are scattered across the world. The central question remains: by what right did outside powers decide the future of the Assyrian people? History suggests the answer was power rather than inherent right. The Assyrian story is only one chapter in the much larger history of how empires, borders, and great power decisions have shaped the modern world. If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe to Uncover the Truth and turn on notifications. New documentaries explore the history behind today's conflicts, forgotten civilizations, and the events that continue to influence our world. If you have a topic you'd like me to investigate, leave it in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next documentary.